I'm going to tell you a true story that I made up. Yeah, I discovered it inside of a deck of playing cards. I believe that someone painted the cards a certain way a century ago and hid a mystery in plain sight. And we have to go beyond the surface of the cards, and we have to connect the dots in order to see this. Now, my obsession with playing cards comes from the world of magic. I've been a magician now for 20 years. Some people sing, some people dance, write, draw. I do card tricks. I get to explore and express myself with a deck of playing cards as my tool. I get to evoke joy and laughter via tricks, what I like to call moments of astonishment. In fact, last year, I got to astonish the magicians Penn and Teller on national television on their TV show Fool Us. And in order to do that, in order to fool them up close, I had to spend my 10,000 plus hours perfecting manipulating these pieces of cardboard. Now, this obsession led me to a strange discovery, which I will share with you now. This is a true story that I made up. Now, the cards that we use, diamonds, clubs, hearts, spades, were once coins, cups, sticks, and swords. So would you please, you can see they're all different. Time is of the essence. Grab one for me and hang on to it. It'll be a secret. We'll come back to it in just one moment. Now, the faces that we are most familiar with were drawn in England. It was in 1860 when Charles Goodall painted the cards, and he was the first one to flip the image of the card to make a reflection so that you could see the card no matter which way you picked it up. He was also the first one in 1874 to put the indexes on the cards. That way you can see them easier if you're playing a game of poker. Now, I have my own collection of cards, and some of these findings come from the Hockman Encyclopedia of American Playing Cards. I got to meet the authors, Tom and Judy Dawson, shortly before Tom passed away this year. Their book offers facts, opinions, and, quote, speculations, as do I. So, let's speculate. Let's take a close look at the kings. Now, when you notice that each one of them has two hands, really it's just one hand that's been mirrored twice. Now, there's no sleeves showing. In the 1800s, the French liked to assign each king to a king in history. So clubs was Alexander the Great, diamonds was Julius Caesar, spades was King David. I don't know if that's as important. I'm more fascinated by the design. Now, the king of hearts, supposedly Charlemagne, is the only one with four hands. No sleeves, right? And you see the sleeves, rather, the hand that is resting on the chest and the hand that is stabbing the sword into the head, they're two different sleeves. He's been known as the suicide king, but I believe the extra pair proves that it was actually a murder and someone else killed the king of hearts. Now, who is it? Well, maybe, perhaps it was a printing mistake. If you look at how the king evolved in the 1500s, he was carrying an axe over his shoulder. Then a century later, maybe a painter got lazy or they made a mistake and it just couldn't be seen, and that continued being replicated. So maybe it's not a murder or a suicide, just a printing mistake and nothing else. Perhaps. But I think it's more fun to speculate that maybe one of their wives killed him. And when you line them up for questioning, you'll notice that the diamonds, clubs, and hearts are looking one direction, but the queen of spades is always facing the other way. Very suspicious. And this design element is true in your cards today. When you get home, take a look at it. In fact, let's take a closer look at the queens. Their sleeves, they don't have any, right? They look so innocent with that little flower. Now, historically, Queen of Diamonds is Rachel, clubs is Argene, a Latin anagram for the word queen, hearts is Judith, so that doesn't really help us any. However, interestingly enough, the Queen of Spades is the goddess Athena, the goddess of war, anger and destruction, fiery and resolute. And if you look at her sleeve, notice that rich bloody red, she's the only one of the sleeves showing, and those three lines, the gold, black, gold, and this is where the pieces start to come together. If you look at the hand that is committing the murder, you'll see the same exact red, bloody sleeve, the same gold, black, gold. Now look, in some decks they're different. In some decks they are similar, but in some they are identical. I believe that somebody killed the King of Hearts, and it is proven that it is the Queen of Spades. Now, I know this seems, a little strange to believe, but I believe that a painter 130 to 100 years ago, 180 years ago in England or France painted the cards a certain way, and they hid this mystery for us to discover. Now, there's also one more little thing, and the gentleman that picked the playing card. There's one more piece of detail that they hid inside the print. If I could see that, you picked, yes, indeed, the six of spades. Yeah, there's a reason for this. Because in the 1860 design by Charles Reynolds and Company, the Queen of Spades is seen holding a playing card in her hand, and yes, indeed, it is the six of spades. Yeah. magic? Coincidence, right? I am as fascinated by this as you are. And this is a story that I made up to make sense of all the details that I discovered. Now, you probably didn't know there was so many interesting things, so much mystery and history underneath the surface of a playing card. And I didn't know that something that I was so fascinated by would interest so many others. Sometimes the things we're most passionate about, you never know if anyone else cares, but you still stay on that path and you keep going. And sometimes that path takes decades. 10 years ago, I published my findings in a journal for magicians, and I continue to tell a version of this story in my show, encouraging people to go home and look at their own cards. I'm hoping to one day soon find a 19th century example, perhaps in one of your old drawers at home, that'll prove that my theory is true. I don't know if it is, but it's been interesting to consider. Now, why did no one else see this? Why did everyone see the duck, but not the rabbit, or vice versa, right? Why did no one see what's been right before us for over a century? I think it's because our brains search for patterns, and once we find an answer, we stop looking, all right? And so, unfortunately, we miss a lot of what's right before us. We have to actively trigger the switch to keep our brains searching. So what about you? Is there room in your world for more discovery? No matter if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a skater, a student, or an artist, there's a body of work that you've been studying and looking at yourself. Steve Jobs said that creativity is simply connecting things. And that's what I did, and that's what I got to share with you. So now it's your turn. I know that whatever it is you've been looking at, you see it in a way it's never been seen before. So go, explore, go beyond the surface, connect your dots, and then come back and tell us what you found. Thank you very much. Thank you.